Hey, it's Frank here with Frank's DIY and Homeowner Help, and today we're going to do some spring tuning on this lawnmower. So this is a Briggs & Stratton 6.75 EX, and it is a powered lawnmower, which means that it takes some engine power and drives its front wheels through a little pulley system there. And I highly recommend it. I never had a powered mower, so power basically drives the front wheels. Never had one, and then I bought one. I bought this thing on sale like late in the fall. It was practically winter and you're pretty much giving it away. So I bought it, and I will never go back to an unpowered mower, simply because if you got a lot of lawn or if you got a lot of inclines to deal with, the amount of time and effort that you take with the powered lawnmower, you basically can mow the lawn twice as fast with half the amount of work. So it's a really good thing to do. So anyway, regardless of what type of mower you got, this should work for all of them. What we're going to do is three basic things here. We are going to change the air filter, or not change the air filter, we're going to clean the air filter, open it up, have a look at it, make sure it's not too clogged up, just wash it. We are going to change the oil, and we are going to sharpen the blade. So first thing you do before you do anything with the lawnmower is you remove the spark plug cap so that you can't get a spark. If you rotate the mower blade, that could activate a spark. And this does have a dead man here, so this this lever here is a dead man, but sometimes the dead man works, sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it kills a spark, sometimes it just applies a force against the head of the motor. So take the spark plug off so that you're safe and you're not going to cut your hands off, your feet off. So I'm going to show you how I do the oil change. It's pretty basic. You can go out and buy one of these little hand pumps where you just stick a hose in and pump out the oil into a container. Very neat, very quick, very fast. I don't do enough oil changes to do that, and I'm too lazy to go out. I'm too cheap to go out and do that. So I'll do it the way that I know how to do it, and see how it works. Okay, so all we're going to do here is take off the cap. Put it in a safe place. If you are able to, it wouldn't hurt to run the mower for a couple of minutes, simply because it loosens up the dirt, gets it off the bottom of the pan, and it thins out the oil a little, makes it a little less viscous and easier to flow. The other thing is, though, if you're doing a spring maintenance and you haven't run the mower yet, you might not have gas in it, which is great. If you do have gas in it, you can just take a piece of plastic saran wrap and undo the gas cap, put the saran wrap on top, tighten up the gas cap, and that way it won't leak fuel all over the place. I've run this dry out of fuel, so it shouldn't be a problem. And let's see how she goes. Have a couple of oil rags handy, or paper towels or something, because there's a good chance you're going to make this. That's the fun of it. Okay, let's see how she goes here. Well, maybe you didn't see anything. Worked pretty well so far. See, I tipped it over, and it's just draining into this pan here. Sorry about the bad filming. So we'll just continue to let it leak there until it's good and done. Now, while I've got the machine tipped up on its side, I'm going to have a look underneath and start to prepare to remove this blade. And I'm glad I'm going to be dealing with the blade, because I'll zoom you in here, but you can see the blade's got a lot of nicks on it. It's pretty overdue for a sharpening. You see that? You see how rough that leading edge is? Now, the leading edge doesn't have to be razor sharp, but it has to be like, decent butter knife sharp. And so I'm going to take the time to take this blade off, and I'm going to also clean up a lot of the buildup of grass underneath here and over here on that front wheel axle. You can see I got a whole bunch of garbage wrapped around it. So I'll clean all that up as well, make the lawnmower much more efficient, much happier. Okay, so now when it comes to removing the blade, there are a couple ways you can do it. You can try to block the blade with a piece of wood so that it doesn't spin. What I usually try to do is not block it, because I've seen guys do that, crank on their blade, you know, with a block of wood wedged in here somehow, and sometimes they end up bending the blade. So I don't want to do that. So if it's not too bad, I'll just throw on a pair of gloves and do it by hand. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so we'll get this blade off and we'll get sharpening it. Probably remove the air filter as well while it's here. Then we'll get it righted and put the oil back in it. Another thing that I did just when I removed the blade is I just scraped an X on the bottom side just to make sure I don't put it on upside down. Some blades say top and bottom, and this may have said it at some point before it was all rusted up and used, but do that just in case. So now I'll give you a look at this leading edge, and it's in pretty rough shape. I gotta say I'm a little surprised because this mower doesn't see much, you know, heavy-duty action. It just mows basically my home lawn, but I've had it for a few years and I've never sharpened the blade, so you can see the kind of damage that's done. What I gotta do here is grind out all these nicks and put a new blade on, or put a new edge on it. Generally, you do more shaving on the top. It's the top side of the blade that does more cutting than the bottom side. So I think it's really important to get the angle right on the bottom side, or on the top side, which is this side. That side has the X on it, right? Much more metal to take off on this side than on that side. But either way, we got to take enough metal away that we've got to get all these nicks out. And the other side is pretty much the same. So if it were just one side that was nicked, I'd be worried about creating an imbalance. But because both sides are just as bad, they're both going to require a lot of material to be removed. So I'm going to get at it. So there are three basic ways to sharpen your blade. And one is with just a hand file, just filing it by hand. You probably would stick this in a vice grip and give it a go with a file. Other would be using a grinder, a table grinder. I'm going to use an angle grinder here because it's what I have at hand and it's what I have closest, and I know it does the job really well. And make sure you wear your safety gear, wear your gloves, wear your glasses, and of course wear your Birkenstocks. Alright, so what I'm going to do is take more off of this edge, which is the top edge, because that's what does more of the cutting. I'll remove, and you want to maintain that same angle on the blade. Can you see it there? See how there's an angle on that blade? You basically want to adjust your angle until you see that you're matching that angle, and just keep easing back and forth until you almost have all the nicks eliminated, and then you just go on the other side just to do the last little touch. Remove much more from the top side of the blade than the bottom side of the blade. So I'll take a quick look at it, and you can just see by looking at the shine on the blade how well you're doing with your angle. And that's not bad. I need to take a little more off there. But a lot more metal has to come off because you can see there's still Still some really good nicks there. You see those all have to come out. Alright, so you just keep removing metal until you get them almost all out and you finish it off on the other side. So once you go to the other side, you can tell here, hopefully you can see it with this camera angle, but you can see that the other side is a much more shallow cut. It's a much more shallow grind that you're going to remove. So we'll remove, you know, material back, way back to here, whereas here it's a much sharper angle and you're basically a steeper angle on the back side. It's much more shallow. So once we get that shallow angle, that should get most, if not all, the nicks out. And then it'll be ready. Okay, so here's a look at the final product. It's not bad. There's still a bit of unevenness here, but it's almost like, it feels like those are just burrs, and they're going to come off as soon as we start using it. So much better shape than it was before. And now we'll try to do the exact same on the other side, take off the same amount of material in the same way, most off the top side, less off the bottom side, and they should be equal. Okay, so here's the finished product on this side, and again, I'm pretty happy with it. It's not perfectly straight. There are what appear to be nicks, but they're more like burrs, and they'll come out as soon as you start using the machine. I guess if you don't have the right tools to be able to sharpen these guys, just take it to your small engine shop and pay the 15 bucks or whatever to sharpen it. It's pretty basic. But you shouldn't leave it, you know, more than a couple of years like I did, because it's really inefficient, really makes your machine work a lot harder. And it's bad for your grass too. It can induce diseases if you're not cutting the grass with a sharp blade. Now, if you ended up having to remove a lot more material for one side than the other, like I knew I was removing pretty much the same amount of material on both sides, so I wasn't worried about an imbalance. But if you've got like one massive rock nick or something on one side and the other side's fine, what you do is you do your bad side first, so you fix that, sharpen it up, and then you remove some material from the back side of the other side of the blade. If you're happy with the front, you remove it from the back just to balance it out. And the way you can just check it, just to see that it is in balance, is you take your bolt, set it down on the table, just sit your blade in the middle there and see if it's going to balance. See? I mean, yeah, not the most scientific way to do it, but I wasn't too worried about it because I knew I was removing roughly the same amount from both sides. Okay, so we're going to put the blade back on now, and again, just making sure that you're putting it right side up. You won't mow much grass if you put this blade on upside down. Nothing terrible will happen, you just won't cut any grass. So I'm looking for my X here. There it is, X marks the spot. Bolt and washers in the same order as they came out. And again, just as you're tightening it up, give it a good hold. And that's gonna not go nowhere. Okay, so I washed it out and basically spread out all these folds and got a lot of water in there. That's what she said. Sorry, I'm watching a lot of The Office and COVID, but there's still a lot of stuff in here. So I'm going to try and blow it out with the compressor and see if I can get all that stuff out. See all that gunk? That's how it should look like. That's how it does look like. So let's see if we can blow it out, get some more of it out. Okay, so I've washed it out, blown it out, and let it sit so that it dries. And it doesn't look like much, but it is a heck of a lot cleaner than it was before. Now, you don't have to clean these things. I like reusing things at least a couple of times. This side of the filter still looks really clean, so it's doing its job well. And if it were soaked through or if it had a lot of oil in it or something, I probably would have just chucked it and bought a new one. This can't cost more than between $5 and $10 online. But if you're not so inclined, if you're cheap like me, or if you just don't want to buy a new one, or if you want to or if you don't have time to buy a new one or wait for it to come, then that's how you do it. Just stick it back in now. Close the door, get that screw down, and we're done. Okay, so all the oil has dripped out of the machine. So far, none of it has ended up on my floor, I think, which is making me very happy. Now I'm just going to tip the thing back right side up and fill it up with oil. Oh man, I knew I should have put the cap on it. Look at that. Gee. I had it mess free, and then look what I done. Alright, so there's the lesson learned. I should have put the cap on it while it was sitting there, because of course it's going to have some residual oil in there. Okay, so now for adding oil, just make sure you read the manual or you find out what type of oil. Most small engines will take a 5W30 quite happily. You can use different grades or different forms of synthetics or detergents depending on whether you're using it in hot climates, cold climates, but your 5W30 synthetic is a pretty good all-around blend. Now these motors take anywhere between 15 and 18 ounces or thereabouts. So I'm going to pour 10 and then check with the dipstick. One thing you do not want to do is overfill this thing, right? If you look at the dipstick, your dipstick has a high and low level mark. Anywhere between there is just fine, right? See that? In this case, it's the two holes, you see? So as long as your oil is somewhere in between those, you're laughing. You do not want to overfill this. If you overfill any small engine, generally what happens is the oil gets pushed up either into the cylinders or into the blowers, and it just causes a mess, or it can damage your motor. So go slowly and make sure you don't put in too much oil. So this can here has, I'd say about 6 ounces in it, so I'll pour this whole bottle in. And if that was 6, I'll pour in another 4 from this one, and then I'll check it. Oh, listen to that sound. It's the sound of victory. Okay, so that should be about 10 ounces. Let's give it a test. When you put these dipsticks in, what you should do is put it in and lock it, or screw it all the way through. So if you just sit it on top, it's not actually going as deep as it's supposed to go for you to know what level it's at, alright? So you put it in, close it, bring it up, let's see what we got here. See, that's a pretty good level, eh? Just below the top dot. Wonderful. That's perfect. So I'm not going to put in another drop. That's good. I might let it settle down. I might check it again. You know, I'll definitely check it before I mow the lawn the next time. That way, just in case it settles down or changes. But that's it. So now you've got your fresh air filter. You're going to have fresh gas because I'm going to add fresh gas to it. You got fresh oil. You got clean blades. This thing should be ready to go for your whole season. I've been asked how often you should sharpen your blades. Really depends on how much you use it. Like I can't see with regular residential use, I can't see you needing to sharpen it more than once a season. But it depends. If you're grounding out a lot, if you're hitting the ground, if you're hitting a rock, yeah, you're going to be sharpening it after every time you hit a rock. So that's it. I hope this helps you get your lawnmower ready for spring, and thanks for joining me on Frank's DIY and Homeowner Help.